Hello everyone, welcome back to Janet's English class. I am Janet, and today you're going to learn how to captivate your readers with your writing. So, how do you make a reader entertained throughout your writing? Or how do you make the reader want to read your writing at the very start? You're going to learn all about that today. Before we get started, I want to mention that I have created a YouTube transcript for this video on Janet's English courses. I will link it down below in the description. Alright, now let's get started to today's video. Alright, so let's be honest. When was the last time you have read a book and you didn't really like it or you weren't really interested in it, but you just wanted to speed through it and finish it? Now, that has happened quite a lot of times for me. Sometimes I read books that are fantastic, the storyline is great and maintained my interest. Some books, however, don't bring the same enjoyment. Some books have a great storyline, but it doesn't really want me to make it doesn't make me want to read it. And that is something that we can all work on. I also need to work on my writing too. But today, you're going to learn how to captivate the reader with your writing. So here goes our first tip, which is to grab the reader's attention in the first sentence. This is a very basic method that all writers use. This technique goes for all kinds of writing, like debating, essays, stories, or poems. So if you have a good headline or a topic sentence at the start of your writing, it piques the reader's attention, it captivates their interests, and washes the reader's pain points. This is very important because then you can incorporate it into your upcoming paragraphs for a maintained, interested piece of writing. It looks a little bit like this. Here is an example from an extract of the first sentence of The Last Black Unicorn. School was hard for me, for a lot of reasons. This sentence immediately gives you an idea what the reader is going to expect next. But the tension builds up as to the fact that I'm thinking, I go to school, but what does the character struggle with? I want to find out. That is the kind of thought you want your readers to be going through. Here is another example made by me. So for example, you are writing a contemporary fictional story. When I was 12, a queer girl named Sally lived 2 blocks across the road from my house, and we became friends ever since. She had strawberry blonde hair, tinted white stockings, and her sage green eyes led right to her soul. Now for the analyzing. Notice how I introduced a character in the beginning and didn't give too much information away, leaving the reader to wonder? Yes, it is a common form for writers to leave the reader hooked up with unknown details or questionable characters, settings in the first paragraph. Here's a very strong and important tip to remember. Let's move on to our second tip. Alright, so our second technique that we're going to be studying is to show, not tell. This is a key point when you're writing to captivate the reader and maintain their interest streak. So have you ever done a show and tell back in school? When you would stand in front of the class and perform your talents? Isn't that more convincing than just saying that you're good at it? For example, you tell your friend that you're good at swimming. Which is better? Show her, swim 2 laps for her to see your skills, or just telling her that you're good at swimming? This is the same with writing. In writing, it is more convincing and entertaining to show the reader what's going on, not just saying it straight. So here is an example. Rather than saying, Tom cried, say, Tom's eyes drowned in tears. The first sentence tells me that Tom cried. But the second sentence shows the reader that Tom is crying. They send the same message, but usually the second sentence of showing the reader can provoke a more emotional impact on the reader. Here is another example of showing, not telling. Don't just say, "My teacher was embarrassed." It doesn't really mean anything. Say this instead. "My teacher's face went as red as a tomato." Alright, so here are some tips while using the show, not tell technique. Keep your sentences related so your reader is not confused, befuddled with what you're trying to express. Secondly, use simple words to paint a clear picture of the emotion you want to portray. Let's move on to our third tip. The next way of how to captivate your reader into your writing is to use emotion. Using emotion comes in very useful when you're writing. It really depends on what you're writing about, but for this part, I will be talking about using emotion in writing fictional stories. So you might have heard of emotive language before, but if you are unsure of the technique, you can check out a video I posted a few months ago on my YouTube channel explaining everything about emotive language. Now on to how to use emotion in writing. Why is it useful? How does it captivate the reader? Well, as you can see, the meaning of it is to affect the reader's emotions, either in a good way or negatively. The reader can get captivated because they understand the character in a way they just can't stop reading. I am going to give you an example of using emotion in writing. Her face washed with gloom. Her body was weak. Hair left unbrushed. Fake smiles along with pouring tears. She barely said a word. This paragraph is very powerful because of the use of many adjectives added in to construct the emotion of sadness, gloominess, or even perhaps anger. Did you notice that this sentence I created using showing, not telling? Remember, it is always better not to mention the emotion, the word you're expressing. Like the example I just said, I never said the word sad. Here is another example of where you can use emotion in writing. Here is an extract from a book, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. April is the cruelest month. Breeding, relax out of the dead land, mixing, memory and desire, stirring, dull roots with spring rain. The paragraph tells us about the dejection and sorrow of the wasteland, and it does so by using many poetic features like metaphors and creates a somber environment with its verbs. That is how it actually captivates the reader. It's magical. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned how to captivate the reader into your writing. Thank you. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!